Hello, welcome to another episode of Endurance Minded. I want to kick things off today with a quote that I've been thinking about a lot. It seems to be coming up a lot in scenarios that I'm in. And that quote is that you don't rise to your goals, you fall to the standards you tolerate. I'll say that one more time. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to the standards you tolerate. And so today we're going to be talking about the standards that you walk past, the slow erosion of the standards that you set for yourself, the expectations that you've mapped out and outlined, and how slowly over time small things erode the standards that you once held true, the values that you once stood behind, and little by little that limits your capacity, it limits your potential, it shortchanges you from the opportunities that you wanted so badly at one point, but now are unwilling to fight for them. And you said that things mattered, but I want you to think about, when is the last time you let something slide that you said mattered? When's the last time you didn't hold that standard? When's the last time that you compromised your sleep, your exercise, your commitment to yourself, your word, your culture, your values? When's the last time you stopped correcting something that was seemingly small but now feels bigger? And there's an inherent tension in this, and this is very specific to high performers, in that there is a tendency, and I think an inherent nature that comes with high performance, where we really have to check ourselves and hold ourselves accountable, because when you are the pointy end of the spear, there is less accountability, so that we have to hold ourselves accountable. We have to continue to redefine and realign with standards, with our values, and make sure that they're not slipping. Make sure that we're not building a culture for ourselves, for our own lives, that is a culture of toleration, but it's still a culture of drive and ambition and passion and commitment and self-awareness and trust. And all of these things are more important as we continue to reach our goals, as we continue to check those proverbial boxes, but they become harder and harder to maintain. And what we know is that the drift is quiet. It's not loud. It doesn't yell at us from the sidelines. There's often no clear indication that it's even happened, but it certainly doesn't announce itself. And in the moment, it feels justified because of the work that we've put in, because of the goals that we have reached, because things are still working. It's not totally broken. It's not burning down. Maybe they're not that big a deal, in quotes, but we have a way of justifying it. And so in this episode, I'm going to talk about the gap between what we say matters and what we allow. And we're going to work to bring that gap together. We're going to bridge that gap. We're going to bring those two pieces together so that we can stay true to our word, the word that we gave to ourselves, the word that we give to others, the things that we say that we cared about and committed to, but maybe have slipped because there's too much on our plate. We have to prioritize other things. But the real truth is that prioritizing these seemingly small things is the most important thing, because it sets the standard. It sets the culture for our lives. It sets the culture for the environment that we build, the people that we invite into that environment, and ultimately our ability to live up to our full potential. So let's talk about why does this matter? And I mentioned it earlier. Why does this matter specifically for high performers? And we do know that high performers rarely implode from laziness. The issue is not doing enough. It's actually the opposite. I've talked about different versions of this on previous episodes, whether it's emotional intelligence, whether it's radical clarity, whether it's how we see ourselves and our identity. But today specifically, we're going to drill down. We're going to unpack why laziness isn't actually the issue. So what I'm talking about here is this toleration doesn't come from a lackluster desire. It comes from this slow erosion, this steady drift away from our values and the culture that we once committed to. And things drift because of several reasons, but I'm going to identify a handful. One, they drift because success softens urgency. As we reach more of our goals, we feel like we have earned the ability to soften the standards that we place on ourselves. Now, what I'm not talking about here is hustle culture or grind or any of these adjectives that are used to describe often high performance or success. I'm talking about true sustainable growth such that our only true responsibility to ourselves and those around us is to continue to be in growth mode, to continue to strive, to continue to push. And if you are a high performer, if you are someone who is uniquely suited for that task, then it is your responsibility to carry that mantle, to be that person for yourselves as well as for those around you, because it can't be everyone. And if it is you, then you have an immense responsibility to yourself and others. So as we reach higher levels of success, it softens the urgency to show up for ourselves because we say, well, I've already done it, right? I've done some things, I've been accomplished. And this applies to lots of areas of life. I see this happen if you're in the athletic space. I see this happen with the races and events. You do the thing, you accomplish the event, the goal that you set out to do, and then it softens that urgency. You know that you can do it. It wasn't as hard as you thought. You were prepared. You showed up. The day went well. The training period went well. You did it. And so urgency softens because you don't have fear behind you. Next is that fatigue also lowers our discipline. We get tired, right? It's hard to maintain this level of pursuit, this level of focus, this level of commitment. And so inevitably, when we do get tired, when fatigue does set in, it certainly lowers our discipline. And then the environment around us can normalize mediocrity. Now, this might be surprising. We think with high performers, our environment would be one of high performance. But often, again, when success softens the urgency to be our best, to show up, then that environment can actually normalize mediocrity. And mediocrity is a sliding scale based on where you're at in your life and your goals. But if you are around people that are not driven, that are not striving, that are not working to be in growth mode, then that is mediocrity in and of itself. Next is revenue. Specifically, revenue can mask misalignment. As we reach benchmarks, as you grow in your life and your career, you reach financial goals, whether that's in your business or your career, that's a really nice place to get comfortable, right? You don't have that drive and push anymore. And then ultimately that revenue can mask things in your life that don't serve you, people in your life that don't serve you, because it's a little easier to navigate when you're not stressed about money, when you've reached some of those revenue goals. And the next kind of main area, and again, this shows up in lots of different places, but busyness disguises avoidance. So if we're really busy, if your schedule's packed, you don't have, or at least you tell yourself that you don't have the time and space to recognize these other things. Oh, I would do that, but I'm super busy. I would commit to myself. I'm not really backing off on my goals. It's just that I'm really busy. I'm not really slacking. I'm not really letting my standards slide. I'm not really tolerating. It's just that I'm really busy right now. Well, what happens, as you well know, is that narrative will continue to perpetuate itself. You will always be busy. There is no season where it gets easier, right? If you are someone who is in growth mode, if you are pushing, striving personally, professionally, family, relationships, hopefully in all of those areas, you're going to be packed. Right now, the hope is that that is a life filled with things that are in alignment with your values, with your non-negotiables, with things that pour back into you, that fill your cup. That's a separate conversation if that's not the case. But ultimately, busyness disguises avoidance. It allows us to create a really convenient narrative that helps us make sense of the fact that we're really letting those standards slip. So with athletes, this can be skipping recovery. It can be pushing too hard, not pushing hard enough, not showing up for yourself, telling yourself you're too tired, you're too sore, you've done enough, you've already reached your goals. For founders and entrepreneurs, leaders, it's avoiding hard conversations. It's not forcing yourself to surround yourself with greatness, not putting the right people in the right places, not building an environment where high performance is the standard. In a leadership role, it's tolerating underperformance, making concessions where you know it's not in alignment with your values, with your culture, but it's easier to tolerate underperformance than to have the conversation and to bring in the people that won't tolerate that. If you're a parent, it can be checking out emotionally, right? We show up, we check the boxes. You can show up to the events, to the soccer games, to the things, but you're not there emotionally. And so you're not helping to build those systems and that emotional IQ. And we know that in all of these areas, however they show up, that drift compounds. It's not dramatic, but again, it's quiet. Small things here and there, day after day, week after week, month after month, this new narrative starts to surface. And it is one of tolerance. It's one of shifted values. And specific to the ever-present through line of this podcast, we talk about endurance. And endurance just is the ability to sustain. It's not intensity, it is sustained alignment. The ability to stay in something for long enough to see it through, to hold those standards, to hold the line, to build the culture for long enough so that you can see what's on the other side of it. And so there's an opportunity here to think about endurance through the lens of holding the line. So what's the difference between standards and goals? I want to break this down a little bit because I want to make sure that the language is clear. I want to make sure that, again, when we're talking about goals, I don't doubt that so many of you are reaching your goals. This is an audience of high performers, athletically, career-based, leadership, family, relationships. So many of you listening are doing fine. You're reaching your goals. I hope that you're crushing it. But goals are outcome focused. That's a thing down the road. That's you cross the finish line. You, again, reach the revenue goal. You build the business. You build the team. You have the family. You whatever. That's an outcome-based scenario. That is a goal. Standards are identity-based. And that's really what I'm talking about today. We're talking about identity. We're talking about standards. And so a goal says I want to run a sub 3-hour marathon. A goal says I want to lose 10 pounds. A goal says I want to do an Ironman. A goal says I want to start a business. A standard says we don't avoid hard feedback. We don't miss scheduled workouts. We work when it's inconvenient. We work when other people are not. We know that we have to put in an inordinate amount of effort to get inordinate results. And standards are what you enforce. Specifically, standards are what you enforce when no one is watching. Goals are the flashy thing. Goals are the shiny thing at the end. Goals are the things that you can post on Instagram that everybody can see. Standards are what you enforce when no one is watching. And this is where I think it matters most. And when we don't reach our goals, when we have to change our goals and we back off of what we've defined as our full potential, it's a standards issue, typically not a goal issue. And so that's why I think this is important, because we have to be able to recognize both sides of the coin. Yes, goals are important, but as we accomplish those goals, our standards have a tendency to shift, right? We take it a little easy on ourselves, take it a little easy on the people around us. And I'm here to say that I don't think that's the appropriate response. Not if we want to stay in growth mode, not if you think you have more to offer, more to give, more that you want to accomplish. So where does this drift show up? Let's talk about this again with the relationship between standards and goals. Let's talk about our personal standards. We have sleep, exercise, training, your health, your integrity, your emotional regulation. These are all areas that this drift can show up as it relates to us personally, right? We don't hold ourselves accountable when it comes to rest. We know that if we want to show up and get the best out of ourselves, you have to sleep. Now, those numbers are different for everybody. Find what works for you, but hold yourself accountable. Don't doom scroll at night if you know you feel like shit in the morning, right? Put your phone in a separate room, shut it down, eat meals that nourish your body, spend time with people that fill your cup. Exercise is important, no matter how you define that. I don't care if you're a world-class athlete or you go for a walk every day. I think anyone that has a consistent movement practice is an athlete, but it needs to be part of what you do, and it has to come first. You have to move, you have to exercise, you have to engage in that, and it needs to be work that is fulfilling. Make sure you take care of your health outside of that. Again, you have to eat well. You have to fuel your body with food that nourishes you. Now, I'm not going to take a stand on what that is or what diet or approach is right, but find something that works and stick to it. Integrity. You have to move through the world in alignment with your values. Do things when no one is watching that you'd be proud of. Emotional regulation. It's not good enough to be smart, to be successful, to be strong, to be healthy, if you don't have the emotional intelligence to navigate the world, to connect with people, to communicate in a way that invites people into an experience where they can trust and they can feel seen and they can feel heard, and you can get your message across, then that is not a fully rounded version of health. So you need to work on your emotional regulation. Talked about this in previous podcast episodes. That's something that you need support on. Go find that episode. Next, areas that this drift shows up: professional standards in our work, our communication, our preparation, our delivery, our follow through. This is really, really important when it comes to people that have reached a certain level of professional success. I think that it is more commonplace than not for people that are on paper successful where this area drifts the most. You start to let communication slip. You're busy. You're not as focused on the team anymore. You don't worry as much about how people are feeling, how you're communicating with them, how they're able to show up in alignment with their full potential because of the environment that you've created. Preparation slips. You know you can get away with it. You have a track record, right? You've delivered before. People trust that you can deliver again. I'm not going to prepare as much. I don't have as much time. There's more pressure on me. I'm just going to skate our delivery, right? How are we actually showing up day to day? Are we still the leader? Are we still the person that we set out to be professionally? Or have we let some of our standards slip because we've reached certain benchmarks? We've reached a certain level of success, and maybe you don't have to do that. Just because you don't have to doesn't mean you shouldn't, right? I want you to go back to integrity. How do you want to show up? Don't worry about what's allowed or what's tolerated. Focus on your standards. And then make sure you follow through. Do what you say you're going to do. Always, always, always. Next, we have cultural standards. Now, when I talk about culture, we think about this through the lens of our work, culture of our workplace, absolutely. If you are career focused, if you're in a leadership position, if you're an entrepreneur or a founder, culture matters. Absolutely. That is going to have a huge impact on your life. Also, we have the culture for our own lives, though. Culture for the people that we invite in around us, the culture of our home, the culture of our friendships, the environments that we curate, the standards that we hold ourselves to. So when we think about the cultural standard, I want you to ask yourself, what gets rewarded? What gets ignored and what gets excused? What gets rewarded? Is it lackluster communication? Is it people that don't value your time, your energy, your input? Or is it greatness? Is it support? Is it emotional intelligence? What gets ignored? What gets pushed under the rug? What did you used to hold people to that you don't anymore? And then what gets excused? That's not a big deal. It's not worth the time. It's not worth the energy. It takes too much to communicate through this. So ask yourself, what's the cultural standard? And I want to encourage you to identify one area where you think drift has crept in. One of these areas, again, personal, professional, cultural, any of the specifics that I outlined there, just think about that. What's one area where you've let drift creep in? So why is it so easy for high performers to tolerate drift? I think this feels like, even when I was thinking about it and mapping this out and kind of wrestling with this idea for this episode, it was hard for me to conceptualize that this was an issue for high performers because it really runs in opposition to what we think about as high performance. But we know that it happens. And we can feel it in ourselves. We can see it in others. We can see it in organizations. We can see it all over the place in our family structures and our friendships. So why do high performers tolerate drift? Well, I think that when we are individuals that are busy, that are stressed, where there is lots of pressure on us, it is nice to have some short-term relief, to be able to see a win in real time when things feel particularly heavy. So that short-term relief feels better than long-term integrity, than sitting with this thing that is uncomfortable, that is hard, that takes time and energy and patience and focus. It's nice just to get a win. And so we fall back on short-term relief because the rest of our lives feel very heavy. And they can feel very fraught. And with that short-term relief comes some drift. It comes toleration. Next is that success creates entitlement. You can call it what you want to call it, but the fact of the matter is, and I think if we're honest, when you've reached a certain point in your life where you have had some success, you feel like you are deserved or are deserving of certain things. And I think that we have to remember that we don't deserve anything. Everything comes at a cost. It has a price. And no matter where you're at, you have to continue to work to be deserving of the results and the outcome that you want. But because we've put in that work, because it is hard, because what you have accomplished did take a lot of effort and focus and sacrifice, we feel entitled. You feel like I'm going to let this one slip. I don't need to work this hard all the time. Then comparisons have a tendency to lower our standards, right? So if we are in environments where where success has created entitlement, where people are looking for short-term relief over long-term integrity, if those are the rooms that we're in and we look around and we compare ourselves to those people, then we can only rise to the standards of those around us. And so comparison lowers our standards. Next, fatigue narrows our ability to make quality decisions. Again, I get it. It is tiring. It is hard to be growth oriented. It's hard to show up every day. There is an inherent and inevitable amount of fatigue. I get that. I think that can be mitigated in other ways, how we show up in other areas of our life, how we show up for ourselves, the standards that we hold for ourselves and those around us. I think there are certainly ways to navigate that in a way that is healthy, but I'm here to admit, I get it. It is fatiguing. It's tiring to be the pointy end of the spear. But when we are tired, it narrows our decision quality. We just want to see wins. Can I get this decision out of the way so I can move to the next one? I have 1,000 to make today. But we have to weight these decisions in a way that produces the best outcome and allows us to rise to the standards that we set for ourselves, not fall to the comparison of those around us or to the comparison of the decisions that we've been making that are drifting. And lastly, no one's holding you accountable anymore. So if you're a high performer, again, you're the pointy end of the spear, you might look around. There's not that many people that are going to check you. There's not that many people left that are going to hold you accountable, tell you you're wrong, push back, give you guidance, redirect in another direction towards your standards, hold you to the level that you once performed at. That's just the facts. And when no one's holding you accountable anymore, it all comes down to you. And that creates fatigue. It stacks, it compiles. Again, it's hard because it's another layer of complexity that you have to navigate. But that is one of the reasons, and maybe honestly, the most meaningful one when it comes to why high performers tolerate drift. And I think knowing that when you're the one in charge, no one corrects you. And I think that says that, one, we need to look for support. Always be looking to define who your people are. I think we all need those people that will hold our feet to the fire, but your environment will only ever rise to the standards you enforce. The people that are in your corner, that are in your circle, that's going to come from a place of you attracting based on the standards that you enforce. And again, I'm gonna repeat that because I think it's something that's been resonating with me, and it makes me think about how I show up for myself so that the right people show up for me. Your environment will only ever rise to the standards you enforce. And that is a mantra I think is really powerful and important for high performers who feel like they might be drifting, who have built a culture of tolerance around them. So I'm going to give you something. I want to keep this actionable as always. And I'm going to give you a couple of questions to think about. First, I want you to ask yourself, where have you softened something that you once held firm? Where have you softened? Just be honest. Right? Take stock. Where were you once firm that you no longer are. Then, when you've identified that thing, and I want you to focus on one thing right now. Don't try to boil the ocean. I want you to ask yourself, what is this going to cost me if I keep allowing it? Be really honest. When I have answered this question for myself honestly, the cost is shocking. It pulls me back and slaps me back into reality better than any exercise I've ever done, because the cost is too high. I can't let it happen again. I can't afford. I'm not talking about financially, although that could be part of it, but I can't afford, if I care about myself, if I care about who I want to become, if I care about showing up for myself and those and setting an example, I can't afford for the cost to be that high. And then I want you to reinstate the standard publicly. So once you've realigned, once you're clear on what it costs you, I want you to map out what the standard actually is, realign with that standard, and I want you to say it out loud. Tell your team, tell your coach, tell your partner, reinstate, realign, reaffirm the standard publicly, not just for yourself. Create accountability. And then I want you to enforce it immediately. What do I mean by immediately? Not next quarter, not next Monday, today. This is a quick change. You can do this in the time that I'm talking about it right now. Where have you drifted? What's the standard? Right? What's it going to cost me? And then tell somebody. Reinstate the standard. It can be as short as 60 seconds. So this is not a long exercise. So when it comes to enforcing it, it starts today. It starts right now. And I want you to refuse to let small compromises accumulate. Today's the day. I want you to reset. I want you to realign. You're not going to drift. You're not going to tolerate, because you know that you can't afford not to. When you know that you're capable of more, it is your responsibility to do more. I know it's hard. I get it. It's tiring. But if you are someone who is destined for more, you owe it to yourself and others to do it. To the people that you care about, to the people that care about you, to the people that have aligned with your vision and your mission, the people you're doing life with. So today's the day. You're going to stop drifting. You're going to stop tolerating. And you're going to refuse to let small compromises accumulate. This isn't a new strategy. It's not forecasting and goal setting for the next quarter. It's not some big strategic plan. You just need to stop walking past what you said matters. Just stop letting it go. Stop pretending like it doesn't matter anymore, because you once said that it was the thing you cared most about. And now you're pretending like it's not a big deal. So we're not going to do that anymore. I want you to ask yourself, where are you negotiating with the version of yourself you're trying to become? The standard that you walk past becomes the culture that you live in. Culture for yourself, the culture for those around you. And so you can't afford to negotiate with the version of yourself that you're trying to become. That's your full potential. And we all owe it to ourselves to give ourselves a fighting chance to reach our full potential. And so don't walk past that standard anymore. Don't live in a culture that you're not excited about, that doesn't support your opportunity for growth and greatness. You owe it to yourself. Go get it today. I promise you won't regret it. As always, thank you so much. I appreciate you. It means the world to me. This audience helps me live up to my full potential, and I'm grateful for it every single day. As always, check us out, enduranceminded.com. Let us know what's going on. Rate, subscribe, share this episode or your favorite with a friend and someone who you think might be drifting. And you can do your part to help them show up and realign with their full potential. And until next time, I'll see you on Endurance Minded.